hello. It's Eric and Dr. Sakeisha, and we're so excited about connecting with you this evening. We have a phenomenal guest joining us this evening. You know that we focus on the marriage aspect, but we've had lots of singles reaching out to us, wanting us to talk about the dating aspect. So we have you made the request and we are answering. We have a dynamic singles dating coach with us on this evening, Miss Jill Bullock. We're going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself, but we are super, super excited coming off of the Vows to Victory Summit. Yes. And now we're jumping into the date night experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss Jill Bullock.
Hey, how my marriage can win single. Super excited to be joining you guys. Oh my God. So as you mentioned, my name is Jill Bullock. I am absolutely committed to empowering, equipping young singles to really just create a life they love and attract and keep the love of their life. Listen, I have a little different philosophy when it comes to relationships, dating, and particularly marriage. And my thing is, yes, marriage can be hard, but it absolutely does not have to be. And there's things that you can prepare even in this time right now. This is a great time to do different things to prepare yourself so you can win in your marriage and make that journey on the other side a little easier. Listen, I also be remiss if I didn't tell you I was a founder of a nonprofit organization with my sister, Trevor Avenel. It's all about the BE Transform Networks. And that's one thing that's really near and dear to my heart because, yes, relationship and dating, all that is really important. But really, at the end of the day, you can't change your life without first renewing your mind and changing the things that you're doing in your life. So you have to change your situation and your circumstances in order to change your life. And that's where the BE Transform comes in at. I'm just really super excited to know the Hylicks. Had an opportunity to meet them down in Atlanta about 6 or 7 months ago. And we have been doing amazing things in the world together. I love what you guys are doing. And thanks so much for having me here today.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It is super. I want to just dive right in because I have a question. I'm sure all of our listeners are wondering. They're like, what was your aha moment? What was it that moment where you just said, you know what? Being a singles dating coach or the marriage prep coach was a part of your calling. What was that moment that made you say, you know what? This is part of what I'm called to do? Because you do so many phenomenal things that we're going to get into. But what was that moment? What was that like for you?
You know, I actually wasn't something I really ever thought I would be doing per se. But what led to it was just my own struggles. My own struggles in dating and relationships really landed me to this place. And we started off with the whole doing the nonprofit work, and we actually was abstaining for Jesus. That was our original organization, really just focusing on that. Then we decided to pivot to Detour Movement. We decided to pivot to BE Transform. And so for me, why? Because we have a couple different areas we focus on. We focus on faith, finance, and fruitful relationships. And so I decided to take the mantle for the singles, again, because of my own experience. But not only that, what really caused me to really thrust into it to a next level is one time I received an inbox message from this young lady. And she said, hey, how do I stop myself when I'm out with my boyfriend and we're having a good time and, we're kissing and hugging, but I don't want to go all the way. I don't want to have a full-blown sexual relationship with him, but I'm hot and bothered. How do I stop myself? Okay. And I just was like putting my hands on my face, like, oh my God, she doesn't know. She doesn't realize that everything about her question, I don't want to say the question was wrong, but everything she was telling in the question was so telling. And to me, it was extremely obvious why it was so hard to stop in the midst of that. So I had to release my own shame and guilt of my own story and everything around that and say, you know what, I've learned better and I'm doing better and I did better. I felt the burden like never before to really start sharing my truth. And that's when I wrote the book, Sexless Single, How to Be Sexless in a Sexful World, amongst other books, just to really say, let me provide the education because it's much needed. So it was that inbox message, because in that message, I just was like, oh my God, there's so many people out here that don't know. And I thought people knew. I don't know why I thought people knew, because I didn't know. But that really pulled me in there, because in that moment, I realized that even the simplest things as boundaries,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are not going to know anything, especially because if the parents don't step up and teach some values and what boundaries are and what should be, lines that shouldn't be crossed, then nobody's going to know. So,
And
That part, you said teach. I love what you said teach, because one of the things I've been expressing on pretty much every platform I get on at this time is that a lot of times there's an over reliance on the observation. So I love that you said teach, because we cannot times out for us just waiting and observing what our parents do or don't do or didn't do, or even what celebrities do and what they didn't do. It is absolutely time that we move from the place of observation only and getting into the place of education, whether it is being taught by a parent or whomever, a coach. You need to be taught, because dating absolutely is academic, and far too long we've negated that fact. Like, we try to get around it, but there's no way to get around it.
yeah, and that's
Right.
a powerful thing. And then one of the topics you're talking about, finding and attracting happy, healthy love. Healthy. That's like
That
a
part.
key component, because so many times we have people thinking about dating or being Mrs. Such and such, being in a relationship, but do they really know how to identify if that's a healthy relationship? Because it's got to be more than just being in a relationship. Yes, of course, the goal, everyone wants to be happy, but it should be a healthy, nurturing relationship. And sometimes that part is overlooked because we're so focused on the relationship aspect. We're not even thinking about, is this the right relationship for this? Is this even a healthy relationship? They're so afraid of being by themselves that some people will just accept what's presented to them or what's available to them just to be able to say, I'm in a relationship. What's your position on that?
That's absolutely true. And what I'm seeing right now that singles struggling with, because I'm very fortunate to speak to singles on a daily basis, and what I'm hearing is they'll meet a partner, a potential partner, and they'll see some glimpse of hope. And I think one of the hardest things, especially if they find out, like for the single women, if they find a man that's a man of God, and they hang their hat on that, and rather than making that just a prerequisite, they somehow fall into thinking that that's the full qualification. But what I like to say is, just like on a job, in the job, it might require a bachelor's degree in a certain area. It might require a master's degree, or whatever the case may be. But just because you have that degree doesn't mean you're going to get that job. They also want to know about your experience, right? What type of work have you done? Where have you worked before? Matter of fact, we just don't want to know about the experience you have. We want to know how well you perform. So they'll do some references. So the same thing in dating, if you apply that same type of approach, it'll be a lot easier for you, saying, okay, this is an interview. And yes, they met the minimum qualifications of being a Christian, perhaps, and hopefully they're more than that. Hopefully they're a follower of Christ. But
Yes.
what other qualifications are you going to stipulate and put out there for them to reach? And just because they meet that one or two, don't mean they get a pass on bad communication, or they don't get a pass on other things. We're really looking for, let's just face it, we're really looking for the total package. I'm not saying that person has to be perfect, but they do need to be whole. And we don't want to see major character deficiencies and flaws.
Yeah. But you know what? You said a key word, being whole. A lot of people like look at relationships and they look at marriages. Oh, I'm going to be whole after that happens. No, you need to be whole before then. It's going to be two whole people coming together.
right.
And I think that's something that's really, really often overlooked, being whole themselves. They're looking for someone else to validate them, someone else to complete them, someone else to determine their value. And it's so much more than that. And for those that out there listening, even for our young ladies, I encourage you, be whole yourself. You cannot depend on a man to make you whole. You can't depend on the relationship to make you whole. Whatever it is that you're missing, the relationship with Jesus Christ, get that straight first before you do anything else.
Now let's put a definition on that. So
Okay.
when people say, they hear you say being whole. So here's what we're talking about. Each individual have their own baggages. They have their own drama. Women probably 9 or 8 out of 10 have some kind of drama or trauma, whether it's sexual, domestic, or abuse or something in the past. Men have experienced the same. So those are some baggages that keep you from being whole, because there's something that's going to cause some kind of either mental blockage or emotional blockage or physical blockage. So if you have some of those issues when you're trying to come together and become one, in a relationship and start dating, you automatically have some issues, that you need to deal with first before you come and try to, now mesh with another person. So that's where we're talking about becoming whole before you try to become one with another person.
And if I could just speak on that for a moment, because I'm glad you did provide that clarification and definition. But let me just touch, if I could, on the dangers of not doing so, because I see it every day. So a lot of times it's so easy, especially in this, I don't know what even to call a season now, everybody's doing something different. But in this global pandemic, it's so easy to say, okay, well, let me go out and meet somebody. I'm bored, I'm lonely, whatever the case may be. And the danger of you going out when you still have unresolved issues of your past, and the pretty much, if you never dealt with them, then they're unresolved. And even if you dealt with them, but they still show up and you still have had patterns of unhealthy relationships, that's indicative that you have some underlying things that need to be addressed. It's okay. For the most part, 9 out of 10 people have it. It's kind of a normal thing, and it may not even be your fault, whatever happened, but it is your responsibility to take care of that. So the dangers, really quick, is you will go out and you will attract somebody at the level of your brokenness.
Yes.
And so what happens is, if you're watching this broadcast, what that tells me about you, you're in a state that you're in, or listening to this broadcast, you're in a state that you want to grow, you're developing, you're trying to, become the best version of yourself. Yeah. So if you go out there and jump and, oh my God, I'm thinking about somebody having surgery, right? If they jump off the surgery table, you can really compromise really your well-being. And the same thing in this situation, you can compromise the quality of the mate you attract. If I could say this, I like to sometimes give an analogy too of just like being on an elevator, and God wants to connect you with the mate that's on level 20. That's the highest level. You may be on level 5 right now. You may be on level 10 right now. If you get off that elevator, whatever level you get off, that's the level you're going to meet somebody. God intends you to be on level 20, but you want to get off on level 10. You want to get off on the 11th floor. You want to get up on the 12th floor, right? And you have to think every floor you go on is going to get better and better, right? On the 10th floor, and I guess I'm talking to men and women, I imagine, on the 10th floor, you may have somebody, oh yeah, they know God. But on the 15th floor, they know God and they, financially solid. But on the 17th, 18th floor, they're good communicators. I mean, every floor you go to is going to be higher and higher, and different aspects of life, they're going to be able to round that out. So you don't want to get off the x-ray table. You don't want to get off of the elevator prematurely, because all you're going to do is collide with people that's at that level. You're growing. So you're transcending right now, right? You're in a season of transcending above, going higher and higher. You're elevating your life, as we like to call it. And so you don't want to make the mistake in the process of your elevation to let that be interrupted and pick up somebody on your way to the top. I'm just saying.
Now, you know what, you said something that was so key. It's just timing is key. When you get off that elevator, when you step outside of that process before your time, you're opening yourself up to things and people that God didn't have ordained for you to be with. And it's like it prolongs the process. That elevator ride could be this quick, but because you jumped off here, then you got to jump back on, then you continue to go through the process, and you're just, I don't want to say belaboring the point, but you're just extending that time rather than being patient and like getting to where God wants you to be, because now you've exposed yourself. You've encountered other people that are, of course, God knows everything, and he knows we go through our phases where we're disobedient, but he's like, look, had you listened to me, this could have been avoided, and I want to encourage those people that are out, when they're out there and they're dating. I get it. You may be tired. You may be lonely. You want to have fun and all of that. You want someone to tell you that you're beautiful. But that's something, when someone else is telling you that should just be confirmation of how you feel about yourself on the inside, when I look at myself in the mirror, it shouldn't be that I only see myself because of what Eric said about me. What
Right.
did Sakeisha say about Sakeisha? What did God say about Sakeisha before I even focus on what you say? Because sometimes we get so caught up in allowing people to attach or determine our value.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, God's like, wait a minute, that person's not even there for a season. You know, when does their opinion matter? And I say this a lot. I say it to my kids and to other young women. You know, when you think about what matters, you think about, you know, paying your bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many opinions can I take to the light company and say,
Come
well,
on.
you know, pay my light bill with your opinion? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. It's going to do absolutely nothing for me. Therefore, I have to learn to be able to remove myself from, you know, depending on someone's value. And I get it that, you know, our young ladies, they go through things with self-esteem and things that have happened to them in the past. But that even though it's something that may have happened to you, you don't have to remain in that phase, you know, and recognize God's got better for you. What about learning from the situation? How am I growing and taking that to the next level? Because the same person that I am at 18, I'm different at 21. I'm different at 25. So imagine if I settled for the 18 or 21 lifestyle, and God's like, wait a minute, when you're 25, I want to take you here. When you're 30, I want to take you here. And the same thing with dating. Sometimes we're so anxious to get off that wheel, you know, we miss out and mess up a lot. Miss out and mess up.
Yes.
But I mean,
Absolutely.
there's so much information on your website, and my mind was blown. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. This is what I was thinking about. And you were talking about, I was just looking at the testimonies of the young ladies that have worked with you, and I started thinking about the fact that we encounter a lot of professional business women that might be a type A personality, but they're interested in the dating scene. How do you get these strong personalities, women that are, you know, I'm in control of my business, I'm in control of my this? How do you get them to, I don't want to say control themselves, but just to be able to relax, to be able to enjoy like dating, because they're like, hey, I've got all of this together. And then you have a man that's interested and wants to
Relax
date, but they're not,
Yeah.
you know, they're not at this point yet. They may not have the 6 figures yet, you know. How do, you know, how do you have clients with those challenges?
Now you know that comes from something in the past that caused some trauma or
You know,
something to get them to have that mindset.
but how do you deal with those types of clients?
Absolutely. First, I would say she is me and I am her. So that is a common thing. And so what happens in those type when you're dealing with, and I'm a Christian, I'm saved for real, for real. I still believe that there's energy. It's proven, right? Energy is a real thing. You know, go run a marathon and tell me that there's not energy, right? Because you're gonna be lacking a little bit of energy after that. So with that being said, one thing is really to start to tap in and have that conversation about understanding that energy of competitiveness, that energy of hustling and flowing is more or less more of a masculine energy. And men and women, we both have masculine energy and we have feminine energy. So we have masculine hormones, right? And feminine hormones. So it's part of our biological makeup to some degree. However, like Eric was saying, that's also some of our mental and emotional upbringing of maybe we have had to feel like we fend for ourselves, or perhaps even being in sports where you have become so competitive and like such a go-getter and high level of ambition. When I say she is me and I'm her, I'm not joking. So what I know about that is that you have to, one, start to identify what that energy is that may get into more of the masculine energy and see how that works with a man. Because what happens is if you're not careful, they call it an alpha female.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, you can then attract a man that tends to be has more feminine energy because you have more masculine energy. And it has to balance. So if you're real masculine, and it's not nothing about acting like a man, because you could be all woman, act like a woman, everything about you a woman, but that the mindset and the energy that you bring to the situation and the mentality that you bring to a situation. And so that one thing is one, like I said, let's understand what that is and how that works with a man. And also getting clarity on the roles and responsibilities inside a relationship versus at your job. So sometimes you may be the boss, you may be the CEO, you may be the six-figure, multiple six-figure, whatever the case may be. You may be doing your thing, and go ahead and do your thing inside your corporation jobs. But there's certain skills, there's certain styles that you may utilize inside the corporate or workplace that is not necessarily needed, are transferable or preferable. How about that? In the marital union. And so you have to know how to work that out. And I know, like I think about my husband, I was just saying earlier, even to this day, I think I probably work, I'm pretty sure I work more hours than my husband a week. However, what I know is when I'm outside of my job, I know my role as a woman and his role as a man. I'm not talking about, oh, I got to do certain things around the house, because the truth be told, we both delegate a lot of those tasks to help us to kind of balance our life and so we can have time. But what I'm really talking about is I know that he's the leader, and I'm submitting to his authority, because as he's submitting to God, I am submitting to him. And so I'm not trying to challenge him. You know, I can ask questions and we communicate and we talk, but I'm not trying to lead him or direct him or coach him. Matter of fact, my husband, I'm grateful for it. I can't really tell him what to do. Like if I give him suggestions, he's going to go the other way. And so that's not going to work. So if I try to do that all the time, I'm going to come off as overbearing. I'm going to come off as really, trying to disrespect him, because a man don't want to be told what to do. And men, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right or if I'm right. You don't want a mama. You don't want somebody that's trying to coddle you or nurture you or tell you what to do. You want to stand on your own 2 feet, right? Come on. I know about the ambitious woman. Come on, y'all. You know what I mean? So, the man want to stand on his own 2 feet. And I appreciate and respect the men. And all men should be. It don't matter how much you make. Yeah, that's nice. Well, hold on. Money does matter. Income does matter. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it is not the dominant thing. It's not the principal thing, because we know that the word of God says what? Wisdom is the principal thing. So I'm not going to say money don't matter, because money is the answer to all things. However, it should not be the driver, and one's income is not indicative of their value or their worth or the skills that they bring to a relationship or the ability to have a healthy, happy relationship. It's really about, hey, what is my role? What is his role? And there may be some negotiations with those roles, right, and responsibilities, and just kind of going from there. But I would say the biggest thing, to answer your question, is sometimes we have to, I don't want to say fall back, but leave some of that ambitious, competitive, leading, I'm the boss energy at the front door of your house. And when you come in, you want to provide a different atmosphere. You want to help create an environment of peace. You want to create an environment of love. You want to create an environment, of giving and servitude. And we all should do that all the time. Even as a leader, you should be serving.
Wow. See, that's a key thing. So I hope that everyone out there is listening is gleaning from these nuggets of wisdom, because that's really important. We get lots of questions about couples that are dating, and it just, I have so much going through my head right now, because I'm just going through the website and the information, and I've seen lots of your trainings online, and there was one thing, like a quote that I saw that you put. You mentioned be aware of counterfeits. So for the women out there that are dating, can we talk a little bit about that, about how you teach them to beware of counterfeits, especially in this era where, you don't want to be by yourself, and you don't want to be super picky, but then you don't want to not, have any boundaries. It's like, you're trying to play hopscotch. I can't go too far to the left, can't go too far to the right, but you have to beware of counterfeits. So can we talk about that a little bit with the audience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I would say with counterfeits is a real thing. And you do have to have and I'm gonna say something spiritual, but I'm gonna break it down. You do need to have some level of discernment when it
Yes.
comes to relationships and knowing exactly what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate. So there has to be a bar that you're setting the standard. And again, as I mentioned earlier, don't make the mistake just because they are meeting the areas in one area that they get a pass in others. How they communicate with you, you should see some consistency with what they communicate with you and their actions, right? Consistency. So it should be in alignment. You need to trust congruency and you need to distrust incongruency. You need to be looking at things as their family background. You need to be looking at things in terms of how they manage their money financially. You need to be looking at things or how they handle their emotions. You need to be looking at things or how they engage socially with other people. Oh, here you go. Let me give you this right here. One of the best things I can tell you is when you are doing this assessment, when you are going through the interview process as the hiring executive to the most important position in your life outside the position of your savior, you want to say, how do they treat other people? Because see, sometimes when people are looking to impress you, when people are trying to deceive you, they can put on a persona. We used to call it your representative, right? They put on this best person out there, and you just see all this good and all this, the chemistry is going, everything is good. But you gotta be careful to say, well, how do they engage and treat other people? Matter of fact, look how they engage with their dog. How, you know what I'm saying? Because everywhere they are, there they go. Right? There should be the same person everywhere. So you really got to do a thorough assessment. And things like bad communication where they're belittling you, criticizing you, putting you down. These are one signs. It's not just oh, he don't got to be perfect, or oh, she's not perfect. No, that's not dealing with, we're not talking about perfection right there, right? Not being perfect is you leaving socks at the end of the bed or you leaving your dirty drawers in the bathroom. That's not being perfect. Not being perfect is not you criticizing me and telling me how much, you, whatever the case may be, how much you don't like me, what you don't like about me. And I got to make a point too. You got to understand the difference between correcting and criticizing. And I even talk to the guys because men, you are leading, right? So it's okay. My husband corrects me every day. I promise you, every day. And it's okay. It's okay. But the way he gets away with that is because the way he corrects me is not harsh, is even tone, is accountability and things like that. Like one thing I was like telling my husband I want to do, and I was getting distracted. And he's like, babe, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I got back to what I was supposed to be doing. And so it's how you communicate. Men, you
so we got a little technical difficulties. Like she
have the
froze a little
situation
bit.
women tend to express our emotions more. And so don't take the thing that God's created to make us different and to make us these nurturers to raise your children and to birth a nation. Don't belittle us or criticize us about that thing. Find ways to help us cultivate and to thrive and to manage that thing through your leadership, through correcting and saying, hey, okay, you said this, you did that, a better way to do it. Let me show it this way. Actually, here's an alternative approach, but you don't want to criticize and say, oh, that was horrible, and make that person feel bad. Let me say this. I feel like I got so much to say tonight, but let me say that when you're talking about communication, it is not so much about your intentions, which your intentions is nice, but you really have to think about how what you're saying is going to make the other person feel.
Yeah.
And if you use that filter, I'm helping some people today, you guys take a note on that. If you use the filter before you speak, and as you're navigating through relationships, ask yourself, how would this make the other person feel? And once you kind of go through that, that can help navigate you on how to communicate. And if you still can't figure out, like, I'm not a woman, I don't know how it's going to make you feel, ask a friend of yours, ask your sister, ask another woman to say, hey, if I said this, is that offensive? Because sometimes you may not know. You can't communicate the same way you communicate with your homeboys. It's a different type of finesse.
Say that again.
It's a different type of finesse when you communicate, and you got to try a little gentleness, right? You got to try a little gentleness when you engage with women, because we are a little more sensitive, and we're not ashamed about it. And we should not be made ashamed about it, because it's the very thing, like I said, that we need to continue to nurture and birth nations.
Now, you said something really, really key, and you were talking about the fact that we need to be mindful of how they interact and how they communicate with others. That part I get. So at what point do you encourage singles? What they're doing is not necessarily appropriate. At what point do you take it from simply having a conversation to correct certain behaviors to just recognizing, you know what, this is just really, really a red flag. And as much as I like you, this may wind up being a toxic relationship, because we do have some people that have been in relationships, they've been dating, and they keep sweeping under the rug the behavior of their significant other,
ignoring the red flags,
and
they're obvious.
Yeah, and they're, I don't know if it's out of fear of being alone,
Yes.
or just wanting to hold on to that relationship, but they've got to be able to recognize the line between, okay, like you said, correcting versus criticizing versus just sometimes just a red flag. And the reason I'm driving this home, because you have so many people reaching out saying, hey, I've been dating this person for quite some time, and they talk about the way that they talk to them, they talk about the way they belittle them, they talk about different things, and it's concerning for me, because I'm like, I'm thinking about your safety. What if this person, if they have a tendency to yell at you and scream at you, what if they just haul off and hit you? These are certain things where, to me, I'm like, that's a real red flag. Okay, I understand you're upset, but there's still a level of respect that we need to maintain for one another, regardless of how upset we may be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that question. So I'm gonna give some straight black and white. You want black and white, I'm gonna give it to you, because you guys need black and white, because sometimes you don't know where to draw the line. So as Dr. Sakeisha just said, when it comes to the communication, if it's yelling and screaming and really just belittling you and making you feel horrible, that's all signs of what's going to lead to an emotionally destructive marriage, and you want to stay away from that. One thing I always say too is, even when it comes to somebody that doesn't have a level of self-control and being able to control their temperament and how they respond to situations. So you need to look at that. How are they responding? Can they control their temperament, or are they losing their cool? It's not okay to lose your cool. It's not okay to, what people say, I blacked out. It's not okay. None of that's okay. Also, be wary of somebody that's extremely self-centered, meaning, and I like to say, forget a red flag. If you see these things, it's a stop sign. Get off the train, the bus, get out of there. Get out of there. So if somebody's extremely self-centered, all they always think about is themselves and what you can do for them. And they're always just focusing on their own needs and never considering you and your needs. That's the issue. Now, sometimes it could, I'm trying not to get into the gray. If this is your situation and you think this person seems to be extremely selfish, and you pointed it out, let's say at least 3 times, and they haven't done anything or very little to change, then that's an indication they're not willing to grow in that area.
Yep.
Okay, that you 3 strikes we out. Let's do that with the being selfish, because there's a level of that can be a little gray. So I'll give you that one. Some other things I would say is hard, fast things. Again, you got to watch how they're communicating with other people. That's very important. I'm trying to rack in my mind, and give me a second to go through my list. I have a list of 10 things. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm trying to give you that 10 list that I often say should be deal breakers. One is, they're not a follower of Christ. If they're not a follower of Christ, we're not going to be entertaining missionary dating, and you're trying to bring him up. They don't have a level of self-control, and they're not able to, if they're easily angered, that's another thing. Easily angered, anything cause them to get ticked. You got to be mindful of that, how they respond to certain situations, even how they respond to you being late. If they go and blow a head gasket, meaning they're going off and going in on you, that's a sign that that's not somebody you want to be with. Also, look at them in terms of their financial spending. If they are reckless with their finances and they don't seem to have any concept or trying to fix that issue, that's something you need to be very concerned about. It's just not a small issue. Also, if this person is extremely insecure, meaning they always accusing you of cheating, or without any justification, or just kind of very lack trust and having some deep-rooted trust issues, that's concern. So these are things that you really have to say, okay, hold on. This is a concern and you need to deal with that. If somebody's blaming you about cheating and you have no idea, just something fictitious that they made up, all these are major, what I like to call stop signs, and you have to be absolutely careful about those things when you're dealing with your dating and your relationships. Now, I'm gonna see if I can find that list because I feel like there's 3 or 4 more things I want to tell you guys.
Okay.
I think it's here, but go ahead.
All right. Now, while you're looking for that, I know you talked about there being non-negotiable decisions, and this kind of segues into that because I've spoken with numerous single professional women, and they're wanting to date, but they express or they have difficulty standing firm on their decisions and setting their boundaries because their desire is like not to be alone. Sometimes they identify or assign a value to themselves based on their relationship status. And they have, I'm not going to allow, I want to abstain from sex or whatever the case may be, but they keep finding themselves compromising more and more and more and more. And you were talking about the non-negotiable decisions. So I wanted to delve a little bit more into that because I want to just encourage the women and the men, once you have principles and you've established boundaries for a relationship, sometimes there's that pressure to give in. There's that pressure to conform to what society says is okay for dating, and I want to give them that reassurance. I'm not saying you don't have to compromise. Like, okay, if he wants to go to this restaurant, you want to go to that restaurant.
But it's just like a pushover, and the more like there's nothing that they can have as their own. There's always have to give in to others and do what they want to do, and never, have a chance to, say, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Absolutely. So actually, I lost my train of thought. What was your question again? Give it to me one time.
We're talking about the non-negotiable decisions, when you're dating.
Okay, I got you right here. Okay, so what I would tell you, I understand because I experienced that same thing. When I said, okay, I'm not going to do dating the world's way because it's not working at all. It's been an epic fail for like 15 years straight. So I think we can conclude at this point it's ineffective. So I wanted to change. And I remember being exposed to Romans 12:1, which talks about being a living sacrifice for God. And I remember when I said, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be abstain. I was so embarrassed to share. Actually, I don't even know how this ended up happening. The first time, and the first guy I dated during this time, we were at a restaurant and Trell just blurted out to the guy, oh, by the way, she's abstaining. And I remember being so embarrassed. It took me a while to become comfortable with that because I was so afraid of the fear of rejection. And I don't tell you my story just to be talking about myself, but I'm hoping that you'll see myself in your story, right? So I dealt with that fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, because it happens sometimes. But we got to know that even in that rejection, that's not them rejecting you. They're rejecting the fact that they want to be perhaps intimate with you, and that's not a priority for you. So you guys are just on two different pages. So with that being said, I recall when I met my husband, and again, I mean, we had a good friendship, things was vibing, but I knew it was coming to the point that I needed to disclose this. And I tell people, this is not something, if you decide to live a life of purity and to submit to God's principles and ways, which I think is which I know is the best way, right, then you don't have to necessarily go around with a poster board and like what my sister did is telling that person on my first date. That's not really the most appropriate way to handle that. Right. And we didn't know at that time, we were all learning it. And but after maybe 4 or 5 weeks into the relationship, you kind of have established, because we sometimes just jump from meeting somebody to dating. But what happened to the friendship? Can I get to know if you're a decent human being first before we start throwing these titles out here and talk about commitment and sex and all this other stuff? Let me just find out if you're a decent human first. Okay, so during that time, you're trying to find out if they're a decent human. And then as you start to transition into the dating cycle of actually dating, the stage of actually dating, then before you commit into a dating relationship, then that's when you let them know, well, hey, okay, you're talking about a dating relationship. Actually, I think it's really important for me to let you know my value because I don't know where you stand with this, but this is my value, and I got to make sure that if I'm with somebody, that they can respect my decision. And I'll tell you, when I told my husband that, listen, my knees was knocking and my teeth was chattering. I was so afraid because I had dealt with rejection from the very first time I had sex with a guy that I lost my virginity to. It was a major situation of abandonment and rejection at that time. So I felt like that was going to happen again. So I dealt with that fear. And when I told him, he was relieved that I was doing something different, that I was bringing something different, and that I wasn't going to be just so invested into a sexual relation with him that we couldn't even really get to know each other because we're so busy trying to jump each other's bones. So he appreciated that. He respected that. And that's really what you're looking for. Somebody that's going to tell you, oh, I can't do that, or whatever the case may be. It could be the man, it can be the woman. Then you know that you guys are not on the same page. It's not a time for you to get feeling in your feelings and feeling rejected or feeling like, oh, you know, that's really, and you've heard it. I believe the first person I heard say it was Pastor on Real Talk Kim, saying that really when you experience that, if you want to call it rejection, is God's protection. Yeah. You can see it as rejection. I don't see it as rejection. I see that as God is sparing you somebody that you're not going to get into an intimate relationship with, get another soul tie with, and get entangled. Come on, let's just call it what it is. Get into an entanglement with somebody that God never intended you to be with. A lot of times, all kind of things happen as a result of these relationships. And as Dr. Sakeisha said earlier, it literally prolongs your process. And before you know it, you're 30, you're 35, you're 40, you're 45, and you're trying to figure out, why am I so single? But I'll tell you, I am a proponent of being abstinent for marriage. I'll tell you, everybody doesn't have the gift. I know I didn't have the gift. It is okay. But if you seek God and stand on his word, he can keep you. And if you set the intentions and go down that journey, you'll be surprised how far you can go. You know, and you know what? Sometimes you'll fall and trip. That happens. But that's okay. When you trip and fall, you just pick yourself up and you get back on that journey and keep going. But I'm telling you, a lot of times people think that sexual intimacy, being in that physical relationship, is what's going to take the relationship to the next level. No, it's not. A lot of times, especially, let me talk to the women for a moment. Women, a lot of times when you engage in that sexual relationship, you don't know it, you don't realize it, but a lot of times it gives the appearance that you don't have a certain standard about yourself. It gives a certain appearance that you don't have values. I'm not going to say you lose your value, because you can't lose your value, but you can lose your values in terms of the perception that person is dating you have. Because they think if you had sex with me in a week, you had sex with me in 3 weeks, why I'm not going to think that you're doing this with other people. That's okay. Well, it's not okay. It's okay for those who want to have casual sex and have casual relationships. But when we start talking about the marriage union, they don't want, a man don't want a woman who is so, I don't take this the wrong way, somebody who's so willing to give of themselves, because they're not, even if they're the only one, they're not going to see it that way, because they're going to see it as, you do this all the time. Like, how many other men have you given yourself freely to? And when a man, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, when a man is looking for a wife, he's not looking for somebody who's so easily, to give up all the goods. Am I right about it? What you say, Eric?
Exactly. And I know we talked about this before, is that, it's from a man's perspective, of course, we look at the physical aspects of a woman, and they could just be banging, beautiful, all aspects, and, but, we talked about it, like the first date. What's going to make it become a second date or a third date is if they have character, if they have personality, someone that I enjoy being with, someone Absolutely. That makes me laugh, and that she laughs. And even if my jokes are dull, she's still laughing at me, So I'm like, oh, she's a keeper, So, and if you look at, even if it becomes on that first date, and then all of it, if it turns out to be just about the sexual, physical thing, yeah, that was great. But then, you come on a second date and find out you got a dud because she doesn't say anything. She has no character. She may be, manners. You may take her out to dinner and she's picking her nose and just, burping at the table. Okay. And you're like, whoa,
just graphic.
The first date, you were like, man, this was some good sex. But then all to find out, you're like, you can't stand being with the person because they may have a crazy laugh and, the waiter comes and they're cursing out the waiter. You're like, what is this? I can't believe this is the same woman I had sex with on the first time. I messed up. So now you've given that physical aspect, and you thinking, wow, you just blown away with the sex and the physical aspect. And then the next thing you find out, you can't stand this woman.
It is so true. It's true. It's true. And I feel like when you do that, you give up the chase way too easy.
Yes.
Way too easy. I mean, and a lot of times that partner hasn't even made their mind up about you, and you're giving in way too easily. And the truth of the matter is, men are like they like to be chasers. They like to, they're more like the predators, and you like to prey. So allow him, for the women, allow him to chase you. You don't want to get conquered. You belly out the situation, and you are allowing yourself to get conquered. Let me say this for the women. Let me speak to the women for a second, because I feel like we have so much control over the situation. We don't realize we do, but we have a lot of control over the situation. What I would tell you is stop limiting, stop associating. How about that? Stop associating your value and your worth to your booty and your boobs. That's not what your value is about. You're not limited or associated by your sexual and a sexual pleasure that you can get a man. A man can get sex from anywhere. So you got to start digging deeper into yourself and say, no, I'm bringing him peace. Come on. That's one of the greatest gifts I give to my husband every day.
Yeah.
So you know what? You just hit on a topic there, Coach Jill. So when you talk about when women associate their value with the boobs and the booty and the pee, because they always advertising it on social media. So when we men look at it, that's the value we see. And then when we take them out, and then that's the first thing we're expecting is the booty, and then again, it winds up being one of them dates where they spend so much time on the booty and the boobs and sex, and then the rest of the woman is like, oh my good, I got a dud.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, women don't realize, what women don't realize is when we dress a certain way, when we have our cleavage out, when we have our booty out, when we have our legs out, like Eric just said, it makes a man think of you in a sexual way. Yes, you're getting a lot of attention. Yeah, you're getting a lot of DMs. All these things are happening. But as people say, you're truly attracting the wrong type of attention. What does they mean by the wrong type of attention? You thinking you just stood out to flag him down, but what's really happening is you're sending him an invitation for a sexual experience. That's what you don't realize, and you don't understand why. Then he's treating you like a sex toy. He's treating you like a playground because the initial advertisement say, "Hey, I'm something sexual to be around."
Right.
Some things I see, I be like, "That's too much for me," and I'm no homo.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a little bit too much. I don't need to see your booty cheeks hanging out your shorts, so you just gotta be more mindful of the messaging you're sending. Like you're gotta represent the thing that you desire, and you still can be cute, you still can be fashionable and not be overly provocative.
Right.
You got big cleavage, and you're full figure woman up here. Don't be wearing the shirts all the way down where, there's nothing left to the imagination. Eric,
so what do you say with those women that they have a beautiful shape? They have the nice boobs, they have the nice hair, the lips, and they say, well, I'm just naturally fine. I'm just naturally, my clothes just fit me that way. I can't help it if it's
that way.
So I mean, what's it appropriate? I mean, I know I have my opinion about that. I tell my wife and my daughter the same thing. I love to see a woman who's dressed in a business suit, and you can see her shape, and she's fine, but she ain't showing all her, this is all the boobs, and you can see everything, but you can just see in the suit that she's a nicely shaped woman. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's my take on it. But what do you say to that woman? Say, hey, I'm just naturally fine. I can't help it.
Absolutely, and I get it, and it's a real thing, right? People work hard, they're working out, they're hitting the gym, and they're doing all these great things to look like $1 million. I would say you really have to decide. I don't want to say how far you can go with it, but you have to just say find ways and find outfits that still can express your personality and show your best features without being provocative. You
Okay.
need to have certain standards. Like say for myself, I know I have legs that people will die for. Okay, I ran track all of my life. My dad had some mean bad calves. My mama got big legs, and I'm real fit. So people always telling me your legs are like gorgeous. Okay, got it. So with that, honestly, it's certain things I don't wear. There's just certain things I don't wear. Right? You like for a long time, I didn't even wear dresses because I didn't like the attention I got from that. Because a lot of times, if you wear something, here's the litmus test. Because sometimes you need a litmus test. If you wear something, and when you're wearing that, people whistling, stopping their car to flag you down off the streets, that's not good. That's not good. That means that they're so infatuated with the sex appeal that you're providing, especially if it's happening and you know you got a certain thing on that's maybe it was the skirt, maybe it was the mini skirt, maybe it was this, maybe it was the top. Then you may need to say, you know what, that might be drawing the wrong attention. A lot of times they're going to reveal themselves. Oh my God, I remember, even being in the gym, guys said, oh, you look so sexy when you sweat, or different things like that. They're going to make comments. I always say, this for the men, keep your comments. It really should be above the neck. Your compliments should be above the neck. You have a beautiful smile, you have beautiful eyes, and things like that. And so for the women, you shouldn't be complimenting on how nice your breast is and your booty. And I think that's just inappropriate when you're meeting somebody. So I would say, I'm not going to say don't wear, certain things ever, but you got to find the proper venue. So for example, if you go to a gym that's an all girls gym, then you can be a little more flexible about what you wear. You can't wear your little Fabletics, spandex, and top, or whatever the case may be. Is an all women's gym, but you also need to know that you need to carry some sweats in case you want to run into the store afterwards. So just be mindful of the audience that you're going to be entertaining when you're wearing certain things, and make a conscious decision to not wear anything that's going to be overly revealing, and kind of go from there.
But that's just a default or de facto dress for women now. It's always the yoga pants, and nobody's doing yoga. I mean, and
It's
as
so
men,
true.
I'm just going to put it out there. Men want to see it because it just accentuates the body, and that's just what men. That's what stimulates men. It's just and like I say, when men look at women, that's what they see. And then the thing is, what puts it over the top is once they find out what kind of characteristics they are, what's their personality. Because you can line up 10 women in those yoga pants and they all be like, wow, boom, bang. But then all of a sudden you go down the line, and after you talk with them and stuff, they might be Miss America, and they say, I just want peace in the Middle East. And then they can't really discuss and talk some things, that's not somebody I want to be my baby's mama. That's not somebody I want to be in business with, but all you see. So I mean, does that ring?
You bringing it real. You bringing it real. So, and it is, and I personally own spandex. However, I do watch the audience where I wear those. It's mostly in my house. And like I said, I haven't even been to the gym in a while since I had them. But I will wear tight spandex workout pants to the gym. But I go to for the most part, I think we have like 99% women at the gym. So with that being said, I would say if you're going to wear the spandex, because I get it, they're very comfortable. They're really comfortable. Can we wear a longer shirt?
Yeah.
Can we wear a shirt that's covering the booty? And also, you need to check your booty before you walk out the door. Because if it looks like, how they say it must be jelly and drawers because jam don't shake like that.
Yeah.
If that booty just a wobbling, and you got to know your shape. Certain body type can't get away with certain things.
Yeah, if it gets like that, that looks nasty. That's not attractive. I mean, I'm just being real. And it gets me. I know some women they just have an extremely overly large behind, and they just feel like, oh, if I can pull it up and put it on, it's good. Not. But I mean, I don't want to limit women now. Of course, if you just have a beautiful body, and you're just out and you're wearing your tight fitting clothes, that's cool. But it's just that it's the mentality that if they're always accentuating it, if they're always taking the pictures, and they got then it's like, and I'm mostly targeting single women because, married women, you married, but then again, what are you advertising out there? You're
There are
attracting
some
other
married women
men.
out there that put some of that stuff.
I mean, true, but
We've had
it's
some
just that
conversations. But
it makes me think, it makes me wonder. Now, you can have a beautiful body, and if you got it, God bless you with it. You work hard, you work on your squats, so you make it round and everything. That's cool. But it's just that when it's a constant thing, and it seems like that they really are so vain, that's all they focus on. That's where I have a problem.
That part.
But if it's just that's just normal, cool. But if you just purposely trying to advertise it and really going overboard, then that's where I have an issue.
I think sometimes women may feel that, because I have a beautiful body, that's what's going to attract the man to me. Of course, men are sight stimulated. They're going to look at the exterior part, but you have to get beyond that. And I just want to encourage women, because I don't want them to attach their value. Of course, you work hard. You got those flat abs. God bless you. I'm still working on it. I'm still a work in progress. But then just also be mindful, if that's what you're focusing on, then that's what he's focusing on.
Right.
And we have to learn to get beyond just that physical part. Of course, you know, when you see a guy, you want to be attracted to them. I understand that part, but you want it to be far beyond that.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I know we have to wrap it up, and you're an author of some amazing books. So I wanted you to just take a moment and share with our audience about the books that you've authored. And I think there was something that definitely be a blessing to those that are going through the dating phase.
Absolutely. So I would say definitely have the Sex is Single book, How to Be Sexist in a Sexful World. And also I have The Biggest Lies Women Believe About Men Dating Themselves, Discovering the Truth of Fabulous Life and a Fabulous Relationship. So the second book you can get off of Amazon, Sex is Single. I still have about 5 or 10 copies. I have a couple of copies on hand, and you can just go in my messenger and inbox me. But I also would be extremely remiss if I didn't mention to you that we also have an event that's happening next week, which is the Elevate Your Life Experience. And that's happening August 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it can be free, or you can get an all access pass. It has options there for you. But I want to encourage you to head over to Elevate Your Life Virtual Event, elevateyourlifevirtualevent.com, and to register, because if you enjoy this is only a tidbit of what you're going to get with dynamic speakers like myself to really share with you what does it take to elevate your life. Like we've been talking tonight, it's not just about getting into that relationship and getting married and finding somebody. It's really about elevating to the highest level. We need to get to that 20th floor to make sure that you are absolutely the best version of yourself, so you can then connect with somebody at that level and y'all can go and grow together. That's what I want to encourage you to do today. Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys, for the opportunity to be here.
Oh, not at all. Now, how can they get in contact with you if they wanted to, enlist some of your services or some of your other products?
Best way I would say, actually, you can go to, well, it depends on what you want to do. I don't want to give you too many links, but I will say this. If you want to speak with me, you can go to talkwithjill.com, talkwithjill, JILL.com. If you're like, okay, I need some additional support, I'm interested in talking to a coach about different things that's available in terms of whether that's coaching or an academy or things like that for that education we talked about, go to talkwithjill.com. If you want, if you just say, let me just get a free resource to kind of get me on my journey, then I would say head over to, I'm always trying to remember if it's a BIT link. I think it is. And maybe somebody can check this for me. It's bit.ly/ready for marriage guide. Now I'm going to say that again. bit.ly/ready for marriage guide. I think the doctor's checking that for me to make sure that's the right website. You can get an amazing ready for marriage guide, easily, what I like to call digestible, which means that you can consume it very quickly, but it's very, very meaningful and it goes over 7 steps in the dating process that you absolutely want to know and familiarize yourself to help be a roadmap and a guide to help you through the journey. Okay. And again, bit.ly/ready for marriage guide. Dr. Sakeisha, did that come up for you?
It didn't come up, but I'm making sure I spelled everything properly.
Okay, and I'm gonna check one other thing to make sure I'm giving you the right thing. So I said bit.ly/ready for marriage guide. So let me just check one other thing just to make sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like, did I did a tiny URL or do I did a BIT? So let me check.
Well, Coach Jill, what you can do is after the show, you can definitely send it to us or put the link on the
line.
On the
Oh,
line,
yeah.
on the chat.
Well,
So it's
ready for marriage guide, and then you'll see the beautiful picture of you and your husband.
Yes.
So, Coach Jill, we really appreciate you coming on, and we're definitely going to have you on for some future shows. And I'm sure we're going to have some juicy topics in the future that we definitely like to have you come on and bring some of your expertise. But everybody, we want to thank you for joining us. Just remember that every Friday and Saturday night at 8 o'clock, you can join us on the Love Radio Networks, the Dating with the Hylicks.
Yes. It's date night with the Hylicks, and we're super excited. We have so many topics that we want to talk about, and make sure you send us a message or a DM if you have a topic in regards to dating that you'd like for us to cover. You know, we have dating after divorce, which is going to be one of the topics we're talking about, even dating for widows. So we have so much coming down the pipeline. So make sure you stay tuned, because immediately after that, it's time for Midnight Love on the Love Radio Network. So we also want to say a super duper thank you again to Jill Bullock, the marriage prep coach. Make sure you take advantage of the free resources that she has available if you want to connect with her. She's giving you the website, and she has an event coming up next week. So make sure you register for that as well. So we want to thank you again for joining us, Coach Jill. We're definitely going to have you on for future events. And we just want to thank everyone for their support, for showing up every Friday and Saturday night at 8 o'clock p.m. on the Love Radio Network for the Date Night with the Hylicks. So just remember that you can be the change that you want to see in your relationship. So until next time.
Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for joining us today on our broadcast.
Let's keep the conversation going. You can connect with us via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or subscribe to our YouTube channel under Marriage Can Win.
Also, you can join us 24/7 on our Marriage Can Win podcast at www.themarriagecanwinshow.com, and also connect to us at marriagescanwin.com.
Remember, you can be the change you want to see in your relationship. Until next time.